welcome to Eat, Drink, Sleep. This is my podcast about the state of the hospitality industry and, of course, restaurants. I want to talk to you about what's happening in the restaurant industry. And I always love speaking with you because you are a font of information. You have the numbers on your fingertips and you run a massively successful business in a area which is getting a little plateau right now. So, first, welcome to the show. And this is my attempt at a podcast, and I'm hoping that people will listen to what you have to say and you tell me things which are interesting.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. I don't know how much of wealth of knowledge I contain, but you definitely are very, very, very entertaining to speak with.
Okay, so Zorawar, tell me a little bit about what you're seeing post pandemic. Everyone is in a little tizzy. Everyone complains, firstly, in our industry. All industries they complain, but hospitality is a unique industry where people complain constantly, where people outside of hospitality say, what are you complaining about? Tell me, what is there to complain about in hospitality right now? What is the silver lining and what is the cloud in your perspective?
Let me set a foundation for what it takes to be a restaurateur or a person in the hospitality industry. You have to be an eternal optimist. If you're not an eternal optimist, don't get into this business because there are always like 1,000 problems you're going to deal with. There are many holes that need to be plugged, but overall, I think it's such a beautiful industry. It's so rewarding. Sure, it's got its trials and tribulations. Sure, it's got a very high morbidity rate. But I think overall, it's an industry that is, if done right and if done with the right intentions, can be the most rewarding thing you'll do in your life. One thing is very clear: it's a lifestyle choice. It's not a job. It's not even a career. It's beyond a career. It's a lifestyle choice. When everybody else is chilling on weekends, you're working your hardest. You're up till late. People think it's very glamorous, but there's no glamour in piling through reports on a day-to-day basis, making sure that every little penny can be saved. Making sure that all your brands stay relevant in the minds of your consumer. So there are a lot of trials and tribulations, but it's ultimately the most rewarding industry I think there is. Obviously, I'm biased, so I'm going to say that because I love it. And this is the only thing I've ever done in my life, and I don't see myself doing anything else. So for me, there's a little bit of a biased color to this whole statement of why I love things. And I'm not much of a complainer, but I think it's also important to be cognizant of the actual issues that plague the industry. And there are many of them. I think there are financial issues, there are governmental issues, there are business related issues, there are environmental factors, market dynamics, the larger macro economy. So there are so many factors that you can find to complain about. But I personally feel that in every crisis, there can be a silver lining. There can always be some opportunity that you can find where you can either improve yourself or learn from. And I also firmly believe that whatever doesn't kill you makes you only stronger. So keeping all of that in mind, I think there are a bunch of issues. We'll talk about them as we converse. But one of the pressing things that always comes to the top of my mind is the lack of input tax credit, the GST input tax credit that has not been given to us. For some reason, we've been singled out of the entire spectrum of industry in this country. We've been singled out to not have the GST input tax credit. It defies logic. It actually goes against the very grain of having a goods and services tax. I mean, you're supposed to get an input because you're paying, you're collecting, you have to pay it to the government, but you have to get input for what you paid for when you did your business. So it's very basic, it's very rational. I think that's one of the regulatory things that needs to be assessed. It literally is the difference, Vikram, and I cannot emphasize this enough, is the difference between survival or death is that big, and it affects everybody in the industry. And I think that's one thing that the authorities can only fix. We can't do anything. It's not a
Hmm.
competitive thing. It's not, you can't improve your operations to fix this. This can only be fixed by a third party, which is the government. So we're really, really hopeful that they are there. They obviously have a listening ear. And, some of the policies that have been happening recently, especially affecting our industry, have been fabulous. The removal of the police license, now talking about removing of the MCD license in Delhi, is super brilliant, progressive policies. And this is, I like to call it policy making at the speed of thought, how fast they're able to come up with new policies that are positively affecting us. But the crux is that you have to fix this GST thing. You have to have a single window for licenses. You have to reduce the amount of licenses required to run a restaurant. You have to make things easier. You have to have the system work to lift the industry, not to bog it down. So there are many, many issues, but I don't want to keep complaining about things, but the GST thing is number one.
Okay. Um, you've been in the industry now for 2 decades, More than
Yes, almost. Yeah, it gives away my vintage, but yes.
I remember meeting you at with your father at the launch of his first, which used to be the first Punjab Grill, many years ago. You had just started in the business, I remember, and we had a
Yeah,
lovely chat. And
yeah,
since then,
yeah.
you have matured, your brands have matured. It's become so. Has opening a restaurant in the country become easier? That's the first part. And is it still how much more difficult than you have brands abroad? How much more difficult is it compared to abroad?
It's very difficult to say whether it's become easier. It has become easier in certain respects, and it's become harder in certain respects. So the authority base or the ecosystem um, has not really improved that much, to be honest. You still have it's easier to get a gun in India than to apply for a liquor license. I mean, lesser red tape to get a gun than to apply for a liquor license. So there are certain environmental factors that have not improved, and as a result, it's either status quo or it's become worse. But in some respects, it's also become easier. I think access to capital 2 decades ago was not there. It was a very nascent industry. Indians were not eating out as much as they are today. Today, the food industry is larger than Bollywood by 40 times. We're 40 times larger than Bollywood. And I think if you refresh these numbers, it'll probably be 50 times larger. It is also the second largest employer of human capital in India after agriculture. And the entire market size has grown exponentially. I mean, you're talking about now an industry that is several times the size that it was 20 years ago. So the market is there, the consumer intent is there. Indians spend more on eating out than any other form of entertainment. The largest percentage of gross disposable income spent on a monthly basis is towards food. So Indians love food. Indians love eating out. They love ordering in. The delivery ecosystem has come in and built an entirely new vertical for many of us. So overall, in some ways, because of the market size and because of India becoming more sophisticated, loving food, becoming richer, obviously, India has become a larger economy. People are making more money. That has made the market size improve. But there are still certain things that have not changed. It is still
Mm.
hard to get licenses. It is still hard to, sometimes deal with landlords. I'm blessed to be with some really good landlords, but sometimes there is a dichotomy between the sales that you can generate in a country like India versus the rent that's being charged. It's almost like first world rentals, but not first world sales. So if I'm paying this much money in, say, London for my rental for my restaurant, um, I'm getting sales in pounds. Here I'm paying pound level or British pound level rentals, but earning in rupees. So there's a big dichotomy there, and I think there's a little mismatch where rentals have gone up significantly, not so much as the sales in the same level. So there are some challenges. Some of them are obviously market economy based, and some of them are authoritative in nature. And we're hoping that this can be solved. But I'm very positive. Like I said, we're eternal optimists. If you're a restaurateur, you have no other option but to be an eternal optimist. And so I can say that I think things are getting better. Like I said, some of the policies being done by the government are improving. We're very hopeful that something will happen for the GST. There's talk about a single license window. And of course, the landlords. Now, the landlords are, I think, the biggest reason for failure in the restaurant industry is rental, occupancy cost. And because that's a fixed cost that is not going to change no matter what happens. So, and I know they have to run businesses, right? A landlord has spent, I don't know, millions of dollars building a mall. They've taken loans to build that mall. They have to repay the loan. They have to repay their investors, their stakeholders, and they have to collect. How do they repay that? By collecting rent. But I think some kind of rationalization has to happen. I think if you look at the percentage of profit that a restaurant makes versus the cost of occupancy of that same restaurant, you'll find more often than not that you're making less money than the rent you're paying. So supposing you're making 15% profit, you're probably paying 20% rent. So in essence, you're working for the landlord. So I think there has to be some kind of a rationalization, some kind of a calibration in this regard, where there has to be some logic and rationality built in. So I think that's one of the key aspects of the market economy or the market dynamic, right, as itself by itself, that is creating some kind of a hurdle and a higher artificially inflated
Mm.
morbidity rate.
Okay. I want to talk to you next about something that you are a master at, which is doing concepts which are hugely popular. What is the secret behind hitting on or creating a concept which will work, especially in a country which is so vast and so varied, and you've got restaurants all over the country and around the world.
You have to surround yourself with younger, more adept people that understanding the pulse of the market. The Gen Z is totally different from the millennial. The millennial is totally different from my generation, whatever we were called. I actually don't know what my generation is called. I was born in
Yeah,
1977, so I don't
Gen
know.
Y, I think Gen
Gen
Y.
Y or
Mm.
whatever. So my eating habits, my way of thinking is different from the millennial, and that's different from the Gen Z. If
Now
you're
it's
going
Gen
to be relevant,
Alpha. Now it is Gen
now
Alpha.
my daughter, actually my daughter is Gen Alpha. My son
Wow.
is Gen Z. My daughter is Gen Alpha, although they're only 2 years apart. So it's like, wait. My point is, you have to surround yourself with people that are younger than you, people that are more abreast of what the likes and wants of the next generation is, because the millennials were the highest spender on eating out in the history of India, and the Gen Z is going to beat that. The
Mm,
millennial worldwide was the highest drinking population in the history of humanity.
mm.
Nobody drank more alcohol per capita than the millennial generation. And the Gen Z is 33% off that number. So
Wow.
66% reduction. So if you have to be abreast. A restaurant is as needy of innovation as even fast fashion. People talk about fast fashion, Zara, Musimo Dutti, all these brands that H&M, that they produce new fashion every few weeks. If a restaurant does not innovate every 3 to 4 months, it loses mind space and it eventually loses all relevance. So, in order to be relevant, you have to be aware of what the market wants, and the market wants constantly change. It's a constantly shifting goalpost. How are you abreast at my age? I don't necessarily know. I just happen to have kids that are Gen Z, so I can ask them. But you don't know as
Do
a
you do
restaurateur
you ask your kids about concepts or what they think
all the
of?
time. All the time. Taste some of my delivery brands, such as my burger brand, Louis Burger, or Nashville Fried Chicken, my fried chicken brand. My kids love fried chicken. And whenever I launch a new product, I do not launch it till they've tried it.
Mm,
Recently, very interesting, yesterday, we developed a new marination for Nashville Fried Chicken. It's going to be a game changer. I'm going to send it to you. It is the juiciest fried chicken on the planet, and we've done it through a lot of research, a lot of R&D. The brand is now almost over a year old, but we've completely changed the marination. So juicy, and we figured it out. So first thing I did was I tried, obviously, in the office. Actually, our R&D center is across from the office, so we went over there, tried it, loved it, got it over to my house, shifted yesterday. My kids tried it and they fell in love. So now that I have their stamp of approval, now it's going to be launched countrywide in 6 cities, and it's going to be hopefully loved by our patrons even more. So
mm,
you have to seek feedback from the people that you're actually targeting. I am not so a restaurant like Masala Library is probably built for people like you and I, right?
mm,
Although today only I got a beautiful email from a very young man with cerebral palsy that sent me a huge email, and I was
mm.
actually very touched. It made my day. He chose us to celebrate his father's 70th birthday or something like that. I think it was 70th birthday, and how his family is full of disability children, and how he wanted to us to organize something special. Now, it just literally made my day. So Masala Library is built for people like you and I, or luckily in my case, also some of the younger generation. But a restaurant like Farzi Cafe is for the youth. So I have to keep changing the menu. Farzi Cafe is about 10 years old, and it must have changed its menu about 12 times or maybe 15 times. I'm talking about complete overhauls, not new menu additions. That happens 3 to 4 times a year. The
Yeah.
entire menu must have evolved, or different versions 10 to 12 times. So, as a restaurateur, you have to constantly be aware of what the market wants and change, adapt, 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 innovate, innovate, innovate. There's no third mantra to this.
Okay, now a little difficult question, and even for an optimist like you, how do you deal with failure? Because this is a business also which has a quite a stonking big failure rate.
Takes me back to the ad that Nike did for Michael Jordan. Michael
Mhm.
Jordan is my favorite athlete of all time, him and Tiger Woods. And they did an ad where they basically listed all his failures. So he talked about, oh, I missed 3,000 shots. I was trusted by my team to score the match winning game, and I missed that 25 times. I've lost 200 games. I failed in my college first selection criteria. So he lists out a whole bunch of failures. And then the last line says, and that's why I win. So it's very important to learn from failure. It has to make you stronger. Whatever doesn't kill you, I'm saying it the second time today, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So if it's a failure, it must be assessed rationally. It must be assessed in a scientific manner, figure out what went wrong, learn from it, and improve. Yeah, I've had a bunch of failures. I mean, I think no entrepreneur can say that I had no failure. Everybody's had failures. It's how you fall down, brush yourself off, and get back up. That's the mind of a champion. That's the way an entrepreneur has to think if they don't want to quit. You can't quit. Quitting is not an option. It's very easy to sometimes say, oh, you know what, I'm sick of this. I just want to do something else. That's escapist behavior. I don't believe in escapism. I believe in um, I believe in sticking to it. I believe in not giving up. I believe in never quitting. And I think that's the way a lot of people in the industry also feel, because there are so many trials and tribulations. Literally every day is a firefight. Every day we're putting out multiple fires. We're dealing with multiple holes, plugging those gaps. We're doing a lot of problem solving in this business. And it's not for the faint of heart. If you are somebody who's easily rattled, then don't open a restaurant or don't get into the restaurant business. If you're somebody who's got a thicker skin, then go ahead. I mean, imagine if you work in an office and you build spreadsheets, you build formulae, and every day in the court of public opinion, people are reviewing your work. Oh, 1 star. Oh, he's useless. Oh, 2 star. They don't know how to do anything. They should leave the business. He should quit his job. He should not sit in this cubicle. His cubicle was not clean enough. That's what we go through every day. We're subjected to the brutal reality of of venting of the human species on a daily basis. People like to vent. They went and had a fight with their wife. Went to the restaurant. Food was great. Service was great. But they're gonna go and pound us online. So I think this is something that you kind of have to deal with. You have to develop a thick skin. Failure is something that is an intrinsic aspect of life. The way you recover from failure, I think that's what matters. And I'm not the only guy who said this. I'm sure a million smart people, way smarter than me, have said this. Philosophers have written poems on this. But the way a human responds from failure, and the learnings that they get from it, the silver lining that they may find in it, is what defines your character.
Okay. The other question I wanted to, and this is something that our generation has seen. We have seen the industry change in nature. Like when we were growing up, a lot of restaurants were brought in as the way of running the family. It was like, we're going to start a restaurant, or, I mean, I've made this example before, like, the Gulati restaurant was started by somebody who had failed at everything and then was told Chole Bhature start, and he had a stall around the India gate, and then through whatever. So, but now people don't open restaurants to run their family. That whole concept has changed. It is no longer a livelihood. It is much more than that. In that, what are you seeing new coming in? What are you seeing about the newer restaurateurs who are coming in? And you kept saying that you've become older, and the older generations, I'm still getting over it. I mean, you have kids, so they remind you constantly. I just have a dog, so she doesn't. So I still think I'm young, but
No, in my heart, I'm young.
ah,
My white beard gives it away, but in my heart, I'm young. No,
no.
I don't think I fully agree with you saying that people don't open a restaurant to run their families. I think for many people, it is their livelihood. And if that restaurant doesn't work, that singular restaurant doesn't work, they could lose their shirt, they could lose their livelihood, and they could, have no means of survival. So I think a restaurant can be livelihood for many. It is. It's from. I mean, not just the organized sector. If you look at the disorganized sector, millions of
Yes.
people that are relying on their small dhabas, small little shops, small little home chef kind of operations that are their survival. I mean, that's their only stream of income. There are many people. In the urban area, obviously, it's usually people that are very serious, and this is their profession. This is their, uh, this is their lifestyle choice. And then there are people that are getting into it because they have excess cash and they think it's a very glamorous business. And my son needs to get married. That's a very common one, by the way. My son needs to get married. He doesn't do anything. Please help him open a restaurant so that his potential wife's father would allow her to be wedded to him. That's a very, very common occurrence, especially in Delhi. People come and ask for franchises and help with opening restaurants. And the reason is, I think all these reasons are wrong. There can be only one reason, and that is because you're passionate about it. My father always told me, figure out something you do for free and then figure out a way to make money from it. And for me, that's restauranting. And if that is one of the key reasons, or that's a big driver for you, then you will definitely succeed. Their chances of failure are far lower. But if you're getting into it for glamour reasons or for an extension of your drawing room, then I think the chances of failure significantly increase. I'm not saying that you will fail. You could develop a passion later on, but get into it for the right reasons. And don't think of it as a 9 to 5. It's not. It is a lifestyle choice. It is beyond even a career, in my opinion. It's a passion choice, and I think if you're getting into it for those reasons, it'll be great. A lot of people get their livelihood from this. We're, like I said, second largest employer of human capital. 10 million people directly employed, another 10 million indirectly employed, just as a result of the restaurant business. And and the numbers could be significantly larger than this if you account properly for the the ancillary industries as well as the disorganized sector. The disorganized sector is even larger. So people nowadays get into the restaurants either if they're well capitalized or if they are passionate, which is the best reason in my opinion. And three, they do it for the alternate reasons, which I think lead to higher level of failure. If you're undercapitalized, again, I would suggest, uh, and even if you're passionate, so it's a equation, it's a combination. You might be very passionate, but you're undercapitalized. Don't open the restaurant. You might be non-passionate but heavily capitalized. You still should not open the restaurant. But if you're highly passionate and you figure out a gap in the market and you're well capitalized, your chances of success are very, very high. So get into it for the right reasons. It can be a very good livelihood. It can build a big international conglomerate for you. People have done it. I'm so proud of what some of the brands like Haldiram's have done. So many of our Indian restaurateurs now are doing such a great job overseas. The top restaurant in all of New York was rated to be an South Indian restaurant called Sema. So I'm very proud of some of the work that our diaspora is doing for Indian food. Farzi Cafe is now in multiple countries. We just opened in New York, we're in Seattle, we're in the UK. So get into it for the right reasons, and you can build a big company. You can make a good livelihood for yourself, and you can do something that you truly love. If you love what you're doing, you're never really working another day because you're enjoying yourself. So if you're enjoying yourself, you're having fun, go ahead and get into the industry for that reason. And that is the biggest reason there should be.
This is also one of the reasons why I love chatting with you people, because I really enjoy myself. I'm hoping that you enjoyed this interaction. Zorawar Kalra, thank you very much for being part of Eat, Drink, and Sleep.
Pleasure to be here.